My universe collapsed on a Tuesday afternoon, not with the cosmic bang scientists theorized, but with 3 paragraphs left on my kitchen counter. 15 years of marriage, a mortgage, and a 6-year-old son, all abandoned in precisely 107 words. The clock was merciless. I had exactly 47 minutes to rebuild a world from ashes before my son stepped off his school bus, expecting his mother's smile. 47 minutes to construct a story that would not shatter him. 47 minutes to become both the father I had been and the mother I had never thought I would have to be. The note trembled in my hand.
Motherhood was a mistake I could no longer keep pretending to embrace.
The universe had kept no promises. Neither, it seemed, had my wife. I came home on a Tuesday in October. Half of our closet was empty. A note sat on the kitchen counter. 15 years of marriage reduced to 3 paragraphs. Catherine couldn't do this anymore, and was staying with her sister until she found a place. No mention of David, her 28-year-old research assistant with a vintage motorcycle. No mention of Nathan, our 6-year-old son, due home from school in exactly 47 minutes. Just a cold statement that motherhood had been a mistake she couldn't keep pretending to embrace. She was reclaiming the life she'd put on hold. I had 47 minutes to rebuild the world before my son came home to find it destroyed. My name is Michael Sanderson. I'm 42 and a writer at a publishing house in Boston. Until today, I thought I understood my life. Now, I stand in our kitchen with the 1-page note that changes everything. I need to explain to a first grader that his mother no longer wants to be part of our story. I read the note again, my hands shaking. The handwriting was Catherine's, precise and slightly slanted. It was the same hand that once wrote love notes in my briefcase.
Meet me at midnight. Bring only yourself.
The same hand that held mine in the delivery room when Nathan was born. I remembered her face that day, how she looked at Nathan with wonder and fear, a fleeting shadow I dismissed as exhaustion.
You're imagining things, Michael,
she said just last week. Irritation barely hid her practiced patience.
I'm just tired. This project with David is demanding.
David? I flashed back to the faculty party last month. Catherine's laugh filled the room, brighter than I'd heard at home in years. Her hand lingered on his arm. The way she looked at him was like he was water after a long drought. The microwave clock blinked. 29 minutes until Nathan's bus arrived. I splashed cold water on my face, straightened my tie, and tried to script what to say. The words died in my throat. How do you protect a child from knowing that one of the 2 people he trusts has found him not enough? I called Catherine's phone, straight to voicemail. I called her sister, Julie. Is she with you? My voice was raw and unfamiliar.
Michael.
Julie hesitated, her silence heavy with guilt.
I didn't know until yesterday. I've been trying to talk her out of...
My son will walk through that door in 20 minutes, expecting to see his mother. Rage bubbled beneath my shock. What am I supposed to tell him, Julie?
She's not here,
Julie whispered.
She's with him. She said she'd call tomorrow after she's settled. Michael, I'm so...
Don't. I cut her off, unable to bear her sympathy. Just tell her Nathan will be waiting for her call. I hung up without waiting for her response and stared at the refrigerator door. It was filled with Nathan's drawings. There was our family holding hands under a bright yellow sun. Also, a green dinosaur that Catherine helped him cut out one Sunday afternoon. I remembered her face that day, sunlight streaming through the kitchen window as she guided his small hands with scissors. Had she been happy then? Or just going through the motions, waiting for an exit? When the school bus dropped Nathan off, I stood at the corner with a brittle smile. He bounded down the steps, backpack bouncing, a paper in his hand.
Dad,
His surprise at seeing me registered briefly.
you're not at work. We got to hold Shelby today. That's the turtle. And Miss Roberts said I was super gentle. I made a drawing of her. See, I gave her a rainbow shell, even though Miss Roberts said that's not realistic.
I knelt to hug him, breathing in the scent of school paste and peanut butter. My throat tightened as I felt his small arms wrap around my neck, his trust in the world still intact for these last moments. "That's great, buddy," I managed. "Let's walk home and you can tell me all about it."
Where's Mom?
He asked as we walked up our street, the inevitable question arriving like a punch. I had rehearsed this moment many times in the last 47 minutes. In the end, I chose a partial truth. Mom needed some time away. She's staying with Aunt Julie for a bit.
Is she sick?
His eyes widened with concern. "No, buddy. She just needs time to think about things."
Like when you go to your office and I'm not supposed to interrupt.
I almost smiled at the comparison. Something like that. As we approached our house, Nathan slowed.
But Mom always meets me at the bus on Tuesdays. She knows I have library today, and I have the book in my backpack that's due.
"I can take you to return it tomorrow,"
But it's due today.
he insisted, his small face creasing with worry.
Ms. Wilson said overdue books make the library sad.
"Tell you what, we'll have a snack, and then we can walk to the library together. Maybe get ice cream on the way back." I was already trying to fill the sudden absence with treats and attention, a pattern I would later recognize and struggle to break. Inside, Nathan dropped his backpack by the door and scanned the kitchen.
Did Mom leave a note for me? She always leaves a note in my lunchbox.
The question pierced me. Of course, Catherine left notes in his lunchbox. Little drawings, jokes, hearts. A daily ritual I hadn't even known about. I pictured her writing those notes each morning, perhaps even as she was planning her escape. The duality of her devotion and detachment suddenly seemed monstrous. But I couldn't give that to Nathan. Not today. "Not today, buddy. How about some apple slices and peanut butter?" That first evening established the pattern of the difficult days to come. I moved through familiar spaces, performing unfamiliar tasks, discovering how much I didn't know about the minutiae of my son's life. The right amount of toothpaste, which stuffed animals needed to be arranged in which order at bedtime. The fact that Nathan preferred his sandwiches cut in triangles, not squares. That night, after 3 bedtime stories instead of 2, Nathan looked at me. His eyes mirrored his mother's so perfectly it hurt.
Dad, can I have the whale nightlight on tonight?
"Of course, buddy."
Mom usually leaves it off because it wastes electricity.
He said, matter-of-factly. I turned on the small blue whale nightlight. It cast ocean-like shadows on his ceiling. I wondered what other small comforts Catherine had denied him for practicality. I sat on the edge of his bed and watched as his eyes grew heavy.
Dad,
His voice was already thick with approaching sleep. "Yes, Nathan?"
is Mom coming home tomorrow?
The question hung in the darkened room. I stroked his hair, wrestling with how much truth a 6-year-old could bear. "I don't think so, buddy. Not tomorrow." His small face crumpled slightly before he controlled it, a miniature version of my own attempt at stoicism.
Is it because I didn't clean my room good enough? She was mad about that yesterday.
The question shattered something in me. Catherine's words from last week echoed.
You spoil him, Michael. He needs to learn consequences.
I had thought she was being practical, setting boundaries. Now, I wondered if it stemmed from resentment, if every small frustration had been magnified by her urge to escape. "No, Nathan," I said, pulling him into my arms. His small body relaxed against my chest. "This is a grown-up thing between Mom and Dad. It has nothing to do with you. Nothing. You are perfect just as you are. Messy room and all." He nodded against my shoulder, but I felt his doubt. His shoulders were tense, and he controlled his breath. At 6 years old, he was already learning to hide his pain. Who had taught him that? When he finally fell asleep, I gently laid him back on his pillow and went to the living room. I poured myself a scotch and called Catherine's sister again. "I need to know what she's planning, Julie," I said right away.
She's with David.
Julie said, her voice strained. She was torn between loyalty to her sister and disapproval.
They're talking about moving to Chicago. His department offered him a job, and she's...
Chicago? That word felt like a punch. She's planning to move 1,000 miles away from her son, after walking out without saying goodbye. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm.
I don't agree with what she's doing, Michael.
Julie said, her voice shaky.
But she said, motherhood is suffocating her. She never wanted kids, but felt pressured.
She paused, realizing what she'd just shared. Silence hung between us, heavy with 15 years of unspoken thoughts. I remembered the night we chose to have a baby. Catherine was excited. She tracked her cycle carefully. She was thrilled when the test was positive. Was it all a performance? She told me she always wanted a family, I said quietly. She brought it up first. Julie sighed.
She thought she did. She thought it would make her happy. But Michael, I think she's been acting for a long time, maybe longer than even she realized.
After we hung up, I stared at our wedding photo on the mantel. Catherine in simple white, her smile genuine. I looked slightly stunned by my luck. I tried to reconcile the woman in that photo with the one who could say motherhood had been a mistake she couldn't keep pretending to embrace. I remembered how she had been with Nathan as an infant, capable and attentive, but rarely lost in the maternal joy I saw in other new mothers. I had thought it was her practical nature, her dislike of sentimentality. Now I wondered if it was the first sign of a disconnect I had been too blind to notice. That night, I slept on the couch, unwilling to face our empty bed. At 3 a.m., I woke to find Nathan beside me in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching his stuffed giraffe.
I had a bad dream.
He whispered.
Mom was lost in the grocery store, and I couldn't find her.
I lifted the blanket, and he crawled in beside me, curling against me. "I've got you," I murmured into his hair. "I've got you." The first weeks flew by with logistics and legal fights. Catherine called 3 days after she left. She didn't check on Nathan. Instead, she told me she had filed for divorce. Her voice sounded businesslike, as if she were discussing a deadline instead of the end of our family. That thought haunted me for days. Her attorney shared terms that included her keeping primary custody once she was settled in her new situation. It felt as if Nathan were a houseplant that could be moved at will.
My client thinks the child needs a fresh start.
The attorney said at our first meeting.
This will help once she's settled in Chicago.
My attorney, Patrick, a college friend, looked incredulous.
Your client abandoned her child without notice. She's been gone for 3 weeks with barely a call to him. And now she wants custody?
The negotiations turned vicious. In her filing, Catherine claimed I had been an absent father, too focused on my career to be involved in Nathan's upbringing. The accusation stung because it had some truth. I had worked long hours and sometimes been distracted when I should have been present. But absence and presence aren't always measured in hours. I remembered the Saturday mornings Catherine spent at the salon while I took Nathan to the Science Museum, the soccer games she skipped because they were just exhibitions. I thought of a moment last summer, Nathan running across the lawn, calling for Catherine to watch his cartwheel. Her distracted,
"That's nice, honey,"
without looking up from her phone. The way his face fell for a second, before he bounced back with a child's resilience. Had she ever truly wanted this life? Or had she been playing a role she thought she should want? Why had I never noticed the disconnect between her actions and her desires? Meanwhile, Nathan and I established new routines. We learned to navigate our changed reality together. Mornings became a choreographed dance of breakfast preparation, lunch packing, and getting out the door on time.
Dad, you put the jelly on before the peanut butter.
Nathan pointed out one morning, his face serious.
It gets all mixed up that way.
Does it taste different? I asked. He thought for a moment and took a bite.
No,
He said.
but it's not right.
Maybe we can try new ways, I suggested gently. Some might work better for us. He nodded, his eyes so much like Catherine's that it sometimes hurt to look at him.
Like how you let me wear my rain boots even when it's not raining.
Exactly like that. Some nights Nathan cried for Catherine. His sobs shook his small frame while I held him, feeling helpless. Other nights he seemed too composed, as if he wanted to show he didn't need her. No child should have to develop that kind of defense.
Why doesn't she want to see me?
He asked one night. It was a question with no good answer. I swallowed hard, wanting to shield him from the truth. His mother had chosen a new life without him. She's figuring some things out right now. But I'm here. I'm always going to be here. He looked at me with eyes too old for his face.
Promise.
I promise, Nathan. With everything I am. The judge ordered a custody evaluation. I took 2 weeks of emergency leave from work, scared any absence would support Catherine's claims. I learned to make Nathan's favorite mac and cheese. I even mastered French braiding his stuffed giraffe's yarn mane just the way he liked. I memorized the names of every kid in his class. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because I realized how much I'd handed to Catherine. I had assumed she was naturally nurturing when maybe she was just the one who stayed. One evening, while Nathan and I built a fort out of couch cushions, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Catherine standing there, looking both familiar and strange. She had cut her hair short, dyed it darker, and wore clothes I'd never seen.
I came to get some more of my things,
She said, her voice careful.
and to see Nathan.
Behind me, I heard Nathan's breath catch. He stood frozen in the doorway, his face a mix of joy, hurt, confusion, and hope.
Mom?
His voice was tentative, as if she might disappear if he spoke too loudly. Catherine's calm faltered. For a moment, I saw something in her eyes. Regret? Uncertainty? It vanished before I could figure it out. She knelt down, arms outstretched, and Nathan ran to her, burying his face in her neck. I turned away, needing to give them privacy. In the kitchen, I stared at a photo on the fridge. Catherine and Nathan at the beach last summer, her smile bright, her arm around him. Had she been happy then? Had there been moments of connection amid her growing discontent? Later, after Catherine packed another suitcase and left with vague promises to call soon, Nathan and I finished our fort. We crawled inside with flashlights and his favorite books.
Dad?
Nathan's face was serious in the flashlight glow.
Mom's not coming back to live with us, is she?
No, buddy, she's not. He nodded, taking in what he already sensed.
Is it okay if I still love her, even though she left?
The question hit me hard, stirring a wave of tenderness for this child, grappling with adult failures. I pulled him close and felt his heartbeat against mine. Of course it is. You can love Mom forever. That never has to change.
Do you still love her?
His question was innocent and direct, something only children ask. I paused, searching for a truth he could grasp. The reality was messy. Beneath my anger, I still felt a deep ache for the woman I thought I married. I missed not just her presence, but who I believed she was. I love who she was to us, I finally said. I love that she helped make you. The rest is complicated." He seemed satisfied, snuggling closer with his worn copy of Where the Wild Things Are, the book Catherine used to read.
Will you do the voices like Mom did?
"I'll try," I promised, opening to the first page. "But I might do some a bit differently."
That's okay, too.
The evaluation came back positive. The psychologist observed that Nathan felt much more secure and talkative with his father. He also noted that the mother shows mixed feelings about parenting that started before the separation. The court granted me primary custody, with Catherine having weekend visitation. At first, Catherine used her visitation sporadically. Then, after she moved to Chicago with David, the visits became even more infrequent.
"The flight's expensive,
She explained during one of our tense phone calls.
and David's semester is so busy right now."
I watched Nathan hide his disappointment, a skill no child should need.
That's okay.
He said with a practiced smile after each cancellation.
Dad and I were going to build a model rocket anyway.
Catherine missed Nathan's 7th birthday. That evening, she called with excuses about a work emergency and promised to make it up to him. I saw Nathan's face as he listened, his expression carefully neutral as he thanked her for the gift card she sent.
It's okay, Mom.
He said, his voice small but steady.
Dad made a really cool cake with a dinosaur on it, and all my friends came.
After he hung up, he looked at me with wise eyes.
She wasn't really at work, was she?
I hesitated, torn between protecting him and respecting his feelings. "I don't know, buddy. But we had an awesome party. I'm proud of how you handled that call." He nodded, thinking.
Dad, I'm glad I live with you.
Those words healed something in me I hadn't realized was hurting. I pulled him into a hug, feeling his thin arms wrap around my neck with trust. "Me too, Nathan. More than anything." That night, I lay awake thinking about the man I was before Catherine left. I had been distracted and complacent, believing our life was solid without checking. I relied too much on Catherine. I thought her natural way with motherhood meant I could focus elsewhere. Now, I saw that my son needed me, not perfectly, but consistently. He needed me present. A year after Catherine left, things changed. I cut back my work hours, editing manuscripts from home 3 days a week. I learned to check homework, treat fevers, and navigate parent-teacher meetings. I even made Halloween costumes. I found a community of other single parents, men and women building new families after different collapses. Many of them shared their own lost love chronicles, stories of relationships that had fractured in ways both similar and different to mine. Sometimes, late at night when Nathan was asleep, I'd read infidelity stories on support forums, looking for patterns or explanations that might make sense of what had happened to us. The cheating wife Reddit stories I found showed me I wasn't alone, though each case of betrayal carried its unique pain. Reading a true infidelity story from someone who had rebuilt their life gave me hope on the darkest nights. I was surprised to find that I was good at fatherhood, not just okay, but genuinely thriving when I focused on it. Nathan was doing well in school. He joined a soccer team and developed a keen interest in astronomy. We nurtured this with backyard stargazing and visits to the planetarium. I also learned that grief isn't a straight path. Some days I woke up angry at Catherine. Other days, I missed the woman I thought I married. Some days, I felt nothing at all. That numbness felt like a sign of healing. One evening, after Nathan's piano lesson, something Catherine had insisted he wasn't ready for, he looked up at me with his mother's hazel eyes.
Dad, are you still sad that Mom left?
I thought about it and realized the sharp pain had softened to an occasional ache. Sometimes, but mostly, I'm happy about what stayed. He nodded, showing the wisdom that kids sometimes have.
Me too.
He reached for my hand as we walked, He had recently claimed to be too old for that at school, yet still offered it in private. His small fingers wrapped around mine with complete trust. I felt the weight of that responsibility as both a burden and a gift.
Dad?
He asked as we turned onto our street, the autumn leaves crunching beneath our feet.
Can we have hot chocolate when we get home with the little marshmallows?
Absolutely, I replied, squeezing his hand. And maybe we can work on your science project afterward?
Yes,
His face lit up with excitement.
I already have the perfect title, The Stars Above Us. Do you think that sounds good?
It sounds perfect, I told him, and I meant it. Later that night, after hot chocolate and science projects, I sat on the edge of Nathan's bed. I watched him drift to sleep. The whale nightlight cast blue shadows on his peaceful face, and the room we decorated with glow-in-the-dark stars.
Love you, Dad.
He murmured, half asleep. Love you too, buddy. More than all the stars. As I closed his door, I noticed I had stopped checking my phone for messages from Catherine. I no longer rehearsed arguments in my head. I didn't define myself by her absence anymore. Somewhere along this journey, I found a part of myself I didn't know existed. More patient, more present, and more complete than before. The house around us had changed. It was no longer a museum of loss. Now, it reflected who we were becoming. Nathan's art covered the refrigerator. Model rockets and Lego creations filled the shelves. Books and board games spilled from the living room cabinets. It wasn't always tidy or perfect, but it felt like home. Sometimes I thought of Catherine. I wondered if she found the happiness she sought. Did freedom from motherhood bring her the fulfillment she craved? I hoped so, not out of kindness, but because it would mean Nathan's loss had some value, that the pain had a purpose. Either way, we moved forward. It wasn't the path we planned, but it was one we were creating together, step by careful step, under the stars Nathan loved. If your world has collapsed like mine, know this. What feels like an ending may be a brutal beginning. It's the part where the supporting character becomes the hero. It won't be easy. You'll have days when you can't see how to go on, but do it anyway. Not perfectly, but persistently. Look for small mercies, the whale nightlight, a held hand, a voice saying, "I'm glad I live with you." Allow yourself to grieve, but don't let grief be your permanent home. If my words resonated with you, share your own cheating stories or healing journey in the comments below. Your transformation won't happen overnight, but one morning you'll wake up and see the pain has edges now. The story continues. Turn the page.